In previous videos I mentioned that red cockaded woodpeckers have no issue creating cavities in slash, loblolly, shortleaf, and even pond pines. So the big question that we oftentimes get as land managers is, why longleaf pine? It takes a while to grow, it's complicated, you don't have great success when you plant it, but that is changing. Why not grow something easier like loblolly pine? And that's a valid question. But what it oftentimes comes down to is how well longleaf pine is, or how well it's suitable for the other types of management that we need to do to maintain that open woodland structure. And the big factor that we have to kind of keep in mind is fire. So to maintain that open woodland pretty much requires either the extensive use of chemicals, which is something we try to tend to avoid doing, or regular use of prescribed burning. And as you might expect, if you burn a site too frequently, certain species, particularly slash and loblolly pine, and to a degree pond pine, really don't do well with a lot of prescribed burning when they're young. So when they're at that younger stage, they're highly susceptible to fire. Longleaf pine has kind of an interesting set of characteristics that enable it to be a little bit more able to deal with fire. So I have a prop I'm going to grab here. This is a longleaf pine seedling that I have pulled up from the ground a couple 100 feet away. And one thing that you'll notice is the namesake long needles or long leaves of the longleaf pine. And when longleaf pine first gets established, it actually starts off in what we call the grass stage. And I had to pull this because we did a burn in here and I don't have any really great grass stage species to show you. But imagine the entire lower end of this thing gone and just this tuft of needles sticking up out of the ground. That's pretty much what a grass stage longleaf looks like. And it sits there for a while. There's no set amount of time that it can do there, but what it's doing while it's in its grass stage is it's actually building a really nice root system. So if we look at the root system of this tree, this, from ground line to top is about the same height as a containerized loblolly pine seedling that we would be planting in a cutover. This is a naturally regenerated seedling, and this thing has been here for years. But in that amount of time, it's been developing this about foot-long root system and these quarter-inch diameter laterals that come out that really make it able to deal with the dry site conditions in the Sandhills community. So they put a lot of effort into early root growth instead of height growth, and they stay in that grass stage. When they're in that grass stage, as a prescribed burn or a natural fire or anything like that comes through, this grass, or the long needles, actually kind of burn off and insulate the bud here on the inside. If you want to take a look at the white in the middle of this. Does a pretty good job of insulating that, and that keeps the trees from, or that keeps some of the seedlings from dying during prescribed burning. Now, to be clear, these trees will die if you burn them too hot or if you burn them too soon. There's a lot of factors that play into it. They're not fireproof, but they're a little bit more fire adapted than something like loblolly pine would be. And I have proof. If you follow my hands down right here, we can take a look. This is a longleaf pine, naturally regenerated. You can see the charred needles all the way around it that burned off when we did the prescribed burn. And now you can see the bud, nice and green, coming up. This thing survived the fire. So it's been building its root system. The fire came through, burned off the needles around it, but it seems to have survived. But one thing I will also point out, this is a blackjack oak that we were trying to control with that prescribed burn. And if you look up, you can see we don't have a lot of leaves. It's pretty crispy up top. We did a good job of top killing this scrub oak, which is tall enough that it could suppress that longleaf pine seedling. Unfortunately, we top killed it. We didn't kill it. If you follow my hands down, it's sprouting back. So like many oak trees, these things are tough. Even if you think you've killed it, sometimes you haven't, and it's coming back. So let's just kind of look around this plot right here. You can see there's a considerable amount of longleaf regeneration that survived the fire. However, most of the scrub oaks that were top killed from the burn are sprouting right back, and they're also very well suited for this site. Will do just fine out here and will continue to be problems for us into the future. So we have to be able to burn frequently to keep these at bay. And what we don't want to have happen is have a species growing out here that we can't burn frequently enough to control the hardwood without killing it. So if we were trying to grow slash or loblolly or something like that, the frequency at which we would need to burn to control this hardwood might be too much for those less fire tolerant pine species that we're going for to actually survive that frequent burn interval. So